Death is inevitable. Death is inescapable. The dead must be shepherded to the realm of Erebus. The dead must cross the river. Athreos, the god of the passage, ferries the dead across the river. These are his oars. The oars that row the boat. The oars that ferry the living to the realm of death. These are his oars. 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 Oars.
Okay. Right. Sure. Yeah, okay. What's going on, guys? So this is a black-white enchantments deck in Modern. It's an extreme budget deck. This thing is under 2 tickets. This isn't a GP level deck. This isn't a super competitive deck. But it is something that I think we can run in the tournament practice room. I think we can have some success with it, and it's kind of fun and silly to play. So let's just take a look at the deck and we'll go from there. So first off, we actually are running 4 Underworld Coinsmith, 4 Grim Guardians. Underworld Coinsmith says that whenever we play an enchantment, we gain 1 life, but then we can filter that life back at our opponent by paying 2, paying 1 life, and causing our opponent to lose 1 life. You know, it's okay. It's a 2-mana 2/2, so that's not terrible. And every single thing in this deck is an enchantment, so it can account for a lot of life over the game. Grim Guardian is kind of janky. It's a 3-mana 1/4. No, it's pretty bad, but then whenever we play an enchantment, our opponent loses 1 life. And again, every single thing in this deck is an enchantment, so that can actually account for a lot of life over the long game. It doesn't have a ton of impact, but we can sit behind it and just grind our opponent out with every single thing that we play. So it's okay. It's not as bad as it looks. It's not great, but it's been working. I've been liking it. Could probably be replaced, but for now we're gonna run this. We're gonna see how this goes. Next up, we have Gnarled Scarhide, 4 of those, 4 Master of the Feast, and 3 Fate Unravelers. Gnarled Scarhide is interesting. It gives us quite a bit of an aggressive start. It's a 1-mana 2/1. So we can definitely pressure our opponent early, especially if we follow that up with a Master of the Feast, a 3-mana 5/5 with flying. So we can actually get off to a very aggressive start. Despite the fact that aggro isn't our main concern, there's a lot here. And the good thing about Gnarled Scarhide is even if we top deck it late, I mean, hey, we can play it for its bestow cost, and it's not awful. We can throw it on a Master of the Feast, which has evasion, so hey, that's not the worst. Speaking of Master of the Feast, yeah, 3-mana 5/5 with flying isn't terrible. It has a really bad drawback. At the beginning of our upkeep, our opponent draws a card. That's pretty devastating, but my general philosophy with this thing is that if I'm beating for 5 damage per turn anyway, you can draw as much as you want, and I'm going to kill you with it. Typically, this gets hit with removal pretty fast, so that does show that the drawback isn't the worst. If people are saying, hey, I'm drawing cards from this, but I need to kill it because it's going to kill me, that's kind of demonstrative of what it does. It gives the opponent quite the advantage, but it's not necessarily the advantage they want when they're taking 5 damage to the face every turn. No, by no means is this the greatest card ever, but I really like it actually. It's 3-mana 5/5 with flying. When you throw a 5/5 with flying on turn 3, it gives you quite the, board presence. The next up is Fate Unraveler. Fate Unraveler is a 3/4 for 4. Whenever our opponent draws a card, they lose 1 life. So you can see the synergy between it and Master of the Feast, because, I mean, hey, we're punishing them a little bit more for that card they're drawing, not by much. But it's really good against blue decks in particular, decks that want to draw a lot of cards. Any deck that combos by drawing tons of cards, this shuts it down. And it's really good, again, for long, grindy games, just like Grim Guardian. Grim Guardian and Fate Unraveler can just sit and play and grind your opponent's life total when the board is locked up, which is totally fine with me. Next up, we have 4 Ethereal Armor, 2 Eidolon of Countless Battles, and 2 Sigil of the Empty Throne. Ethereal Armor is interesting. A lot of people don't like to play that kind of card, you know, an aura, when they don't have hexproof, because you lose card advantage. If you put it on a creature and that creature dies, you're going down on cards. My general philosophy is, if I can just get one swing with it, if I can throw it on a Master of the Feast, get some damage in for a turn, then it kind of, you know, it's worth it. It's kind of like a burn spell, except a very big burn spell. It gives a creature +1/+1 for each enchantment we have in play. Everything is enchantments because we're taking advantage of these enchantment creatures. So it can actually account for a ton of damage. Typically it's like a 1 white mana for 5-6 damage. And it also gives us a super aggressive start with Gnarled Scarhide. A turn 1 Gnarled Scarhide into a turn 2 Ethereal Armor amounts to a 4/3 that's swinging that turn. And that's only going to get bigger as we play more and more enchantments. Eidolon of the Countless Battles is very similar. It gives creature +1/+1 for each creature and enchantment in play. Now this is much more expensive. It costs 4 to bestow it as opposed to 1 for Ethereal Armor. Though the benefit of this is that if that creature dies, the Eidolon still comes into play as a creature. So less vulnerable to removal, but much more expensive. That's why we're only playing 2 of them. And then Sigil of the Empty Throne is kind of amazing. A 5 mana enchantment. Whenever we play an enchantment, we get a 4/4 Flying Angel token. So the bad thing about Sigil of the Empty Throne is that it's really bad off the top of the deck. It's a 5 mana enchantment that doesn't actually do anything the turn it comes into play. That's usually a bad thing. In the case of Sigil of the Empty Throne, you know, if we're like searching for an answer, if we're behind, if we're losing, if we need to top deck something that's going to get us back in the game, this isn't going to do it that turn. We're going to top deck it, we're going to play it, it's not going to do anything. So it's kind of a win more card. It's really good when we're winning, but we will win games with this. Getting a 4/4 Angel for every single enchantment we play. And again, almost every single card in the deck is an enchantment. I mean, it's just a ton of value. So I like having 2 of them. I wouldn't play more, I don't think, but 2 is worth having for sure. Next up is our removal package. We're just playing 4 Journey to Nowhere, 3 Oblivion Rings. Yeah, you know, not quite as good as Path to Exile, but hey, this is an extreme budget deck. These things are very cheap. And the good thing about these, even though they are not instant speed, they do add to our enchantment synergy. So if we have Sigil of the Empty Throne, we get an Angel. If we have Grim Guardian, we make our opponent lose 1 life. If we have Coinsmith, we gain 1 life, and so on. So it gives us the ability to remove creatures from the battlefield and still build up our enchantment synergy, even though it's not instant speed. You know, it works fine, and Oblivion Ring can take out more than just creatures, so that's nice. And then finally, this is a weird choice, but we're going to be playing Rally the Ancestors. The reason I have 2 of these in the deck is because it works extremely well when our graveyard is filled with things like Grim Guardians, for example. This turns into a win condition in the late game. If we can cast it for 3, that is to say, if we can pay 5 to cast it, and if we have, say, even if we just had 2 Grim Guardians and a Gnarled Scarhide in the graveyard, not a whole lot, that would be 6 damage by itself. When they all come into play, they all trigger based on how many enchantments came into play, and Grim Guardians can literally just win the game with Rally the Ancestors. So this is just more kind of jankiness, but it's kind of fun when, you know, you top deck this in the late game and you can just kill your opponent with it. You know, it's always a fun thing. So that's it. That's the deck. It's a black-white enchantments deck. We're calling it Oars because I think I'm clever. Clearly, not really. It's just, I don't know. It's Oars. It's Oars. Oars, black-white enchantments in modern, extreme budget, under 2 tickets. You know, I don't know how well it's gonna go. I've been playing this off and on for literally since Theros. I had this deck in Theros Standard, but I haven't spent a ton of time on it. I've played it off and on for a couple years. It's a budget deck. It's an extreme budget deck. It's definitely an F&M level deck, but I think we can do okay with it. We're going to try to get some good games in with it. We're going to be playing 5 games with it, actually. 5 games in the tournament practice room. And if you want to see those games, as always, check the description. There should be a playlist. And I will see you in match 1.